You're listening to On Purpose with Aisha Cogborn. And guess what? I'm Aisha. I'm on a mission to help people connect their purpose and passion with their profession. My goal is to bring you conversations with regular people like you who are bold enough to pursue their dreams, along with the tools and resources to help you pursue your dreams too. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode, and visit onpurposepodcast.com for links to the things we mention on the show. Now let's get started. Thanks for joining us again, everybody. Our guest today is Ita Udo-Ema. He's a video producer, strategic storyteller, and the founder of the studio View from Above Entertainment. Welcome to the show, Ita.
Thank you so much, Aisha. It's so good to see you. It's been a good long while.
Yeah, this is crazy because I'm used to seeing you probably every week.
Yeah. And
back in the old days, when people saw each other and stuff on a regular basis.
Yes, yeah. So, but I think we're slowly starting to move back towards that. So
I'm so happy.
Yeah,
I'm so happy. Yes. And I mean, it just to, you and I have history. I've been here in Arizona almost 11 years, and you are probably, I think we've known each other about 10 of those 11 years.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, yeah, because it's been quite a while. Going all the way back to Chandler, back to Gangplank.
Yes. So for those of you who don't live in the Phoenix area, the kind of the entrepreneurial circles here, they run together, and you're somebody that's been in my circle from the beginning of me moving here, and I value your opinion on these things, on storytelling, on video, and so I'm just excited to have that opportunity to be able to tap into your brain and to share your brilliance with our audience.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here. I love storytelling, and I love the art and craft around it. And so we're going to have to monitor the time because, we can go off for a good long while talking about it. It's something that I started doing. Actually, I left college. I left Purdue University. I was studying to be a mechanical engineer. And my big passion, my big idea, the big thing I wanted to do was to do special effects for movies. And after 3 years of getting thoroughly beat up by thermodynamics, my parents said, maybe engineering's not the thing for you. See, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be an Imagineer and do animatronics and the robots. I remember being inspired by the original Jumanji.
Yes.
With Robin Williams. So I'd seen this like behind the movie magic with this robotic lion. I said, that's it. That's the thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I attempted to do. Mm-hmm. And then after leaving Purdue, I came back here to Arizona because my thought was, if I can't do special effects physically, maybe I can do them digitally. So I moved back here, and I got my first degree in computer animation from the Art Institute of Phoenix. Through some wild trials and tribulations of doing a few independent films with some friends of mine, one of which shall not be named, but it was because I can't mention it because this, a lot of people are going to hear this, and the movie was awful, but we learned a lot and we had a lot of fun, and then I decided I wanted to do this as a business. As a matter of fact, I guess it was probably around 2005. 2006-ish, I realized, this is around the time YouTube was really becoming popular. And I mean, more popular than just, cat videos and kids biting fingers and things like that, right? It was turning into a video. It was turning into a business tool. And I said to myself, I've got a unique skill set that might be of value to businesses. So I said, well, let me make that a part of what I do. Also inspired by that, I decided if I'm going to get into business, I should probably know something about business. So I went back to school and got my second degree in business administration. So, yeah, that's kind of the filmmaker has always been a part of me, but that pragmatic engineer, analytical side has always been a part of it too. So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. How often do those two sides fight with each other?
Quite a lot, actually. So what's interesting is with with this career path or with the kind of work that I do, to be truly effective, I do need to have that analytical, mathematical side because I'm thinking more about the business impact or the impact that these videos and the films can have. But then I also have to be able to switch and be more of a creative, right? I mean, I keep joking about it, and maybe one of these days I'm going to actually do it, but I need to get physical hats so that I can switch hats between those two different mindsets. I think the biggest challenge is when those two start arguing and I just start spinning, going, standing in the middle of the room, pacing, going, I'm supposed to be doing something. I need to pick a side, pick a hat, and sit down. And do it. Yeah.
I didn't know you had a business degree.
Yeah.
All this time, I never knew that. And that makes so much sense because one of the challenges, pitfalls, whatever you want to call it, that I often see when people are working with creatives, especially around, I'll say creatives around content creation, is you can be as creative as the day is long, but is it going to help us meet the business objectives? And that's something that you do very well.
Oh, well, I try. Thank you. I really try to make sure that there is a specific goal in mind. When I first started out, it was anybody who wanted a video, they'd come to me and say, "Hey, can you do a video?" Absolutely. What do you need? I'll do whatever you want. And I can think of a few projects early on where we did the video, we delivered it, and I just happened to check back 6 months later, and I saw that this client had his video buried on the 4th page of his website below the fold. And I was just thinking, that's just, I mean, from a creative perspective, I'm like, nobody's going to see it. Come on. But it also made me realize that, if I'm going to have clients invest into content, like a video, I want to make sure that they are given the tools to make sure that it succeeds for their business objectives.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a pretty video that just kind of looks cool, but if it's actually doing something for you, that's really where the rubber meets the road. I find I do a lot of vehicle analogies, but Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, he's got a great quote that I love where he says, "You don't buy a car to buy fuel. You buy a car so you can get somewhere." And to me, a video is the same thing. It's a vehicle to get you to an objective.
Yeah. And that's where people are missing the mark because they're just thinking, okay, I need to do video because all the gurus are telling me I need to do video. So let me do videos. And so I see people literally live streaming every day and every time you turn around, they're on camera and you look at the content and I'm just like, why?
Yeah, I bumped against a lot of, as new tools and new services come rolling out, I bump on a lot of them because there's always some new cool gadget, but the core principles remain the same, and I think that when you look at one of the best barometers that you can have is what do you as a viewer want to see? What do you like? So I railed, I'm not so bad about it anymore, but I railed against Facebook Live when that was the new thing and everyone said, you have to be on live, you have to be on live. I'm like, yeah, but do you ever watch a Facebook Live? If you have a certain audience size, then yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if it's just, if it's just you and your cat, then
right.
Then why are you killing yourself trying to do this every day? Maybe that's not the best application of that content.
And often when you see people that are, and there are some people that do it well because they do it like you've talked about with a sense of purpose and they know where they want to go.
Yes.
I want this video to take me here. I want it to achieve this specific objective. But so many people aren't doing that. And so then you're just burning yourself out, being busy, and you think you're being visible because that's the magic bullet, but there's no strategy.
Exactly. And let me just take a step back because I don't want you to have to get comments. Oh, he's talking bad about Facebook Live. I'm not saying that because I'm going to start doing some Facebook Live stuff. But what I want to stress is when people were doing it just to check a box.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, well, so-and-so said do it, so I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
Well, if you don't have a strategy built into that, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So when you think about the people that are using video, And whether it's bigger brands, whether it's individuals that we may see their work, what are some of the things that you see people doing well?
So one of the things that I see, there's a lot of like little things that kind of play into each other. I think the biggest thing is having an effective story or being able to tell a story in a certain way. Now, I look at a story from a much broader perspective than what most people are probably assuming. It doesn't have to be once upon a time, blah, 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 right? Having a story means you have your content structured in a very deliberate way.
Yeah.
You know, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I think one of the things that I see a lot of people doing well is they've got a specific structure. They've got some sort of story structure. There's dozens of them out there. I think the other thing is they're leaning more into entertainment. And again, when I think of the word entertainment, I think of it means to bring pleasure or to bring a pleasing experience. So it's not always, it's really putting your audience first. It's not just, oh, here's what I'm good at and here's my bells and whistles and here are the, you know, sometimes I've seen some brands that do things that have nothing to do with their business, but it's entertaining.
Yeah.
It shows the personality of the brand and people have fun with it. You know? Yeah.
Even when people are doing things that are related to the brand. So if I think about, you know, I do a lot of work with people who are experts. And so when I say that, I mean your product is essentially your knowledge. And so when they're creating content, they're doing it to transfer knowledge. I'm going to show you how to do XYZ 1, 2, 3. But even in that, there are ways to still be entertaining, even if you don't think you have a big personality or whatever that is. But I mean, I think about Sesame Street. Why did little kids like us love Sesame Street so much? It taught us stuff, but it was still entertaining.
Yeah, you know, there's an editor, author, YouTuber by the name of Jeff Barch, and he has this concept that he refers to as the thing under the thing. And I love that terminology. In filmmaking, it's just this idea of subtext. We can use analogies. We can use metaphors to relate the information that we want to tell. And that's probably one of the things that's often overlooked. The folks that are doing it right, that's what they're doing. They're finding ways to keep my attention, create something that's engaging, and, oh, by the way, we kind of slipped this message in underneath.
Yeah. You talked about a lot of the principles are the same. They're just new tools. There's, you know, whatever the vehicle the day is. What do you think might be some of the trends that are coming online or that we need to be looking out for in the future when it comes to video?
So I'm going to start with something fairly simple and then one that makes me flip out a little bit, but hopefully it'll make sense. So I think one of the trends is, and we're seeing this more and more, is a push for long-form content. And it's really it's just a question of structure. People typically will make the argument that, or I should say most typical marketers will say that people have short attention spans and they'll only watch a minute that's 3 minutes or 2 minutes. They won't watch. And now I've said this for years, that I will probably not sit and watch a video that's 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long. I will watch 10 videos that are 3 minutes long, back to back to back to back. And that is really, the story is one long piece. How you slice it up is kind of secondary. Yeah, one of the other things we're seeing, I mean, that was kind of there was an app last year called Quibi. And they specialized in short form content. And the reason it didn't work is because people didn't want that type of content in that shorter form. So longer form is actually starting to perform a lot better than it used to.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm seeing that is really quite amazing, it's something called virtual production. So more and more, the technology is getting faster and faster, that in virtual production, we're able to do something called real-time rendering. Basically, if any of the listeners have watched The Mandalorian, when he's out on the plains of the planet, he's actually in a studio surrounded by these big LED walls that are projecting 3D images in real time. Now, I know people might be thinking, well, what's that about? Why is that important? Well, how this translates into a more practical sense is it used to be you would go to you'd have to go find a location to be able to film for the right promotional video, right? Now we have the ability to go into a small studio with a green screen, and instead of waiting months to get that rendering back, you can shoot it and see it in real time.
Wow.
So that means that we're going to be able to shoot virtually anywhere. You can create your own sets, create your own designs, you can place your speaker anywhere you need to. As a storyteller, that gives us so much more flexibility. We don't necessarily have to make plans to, I got to go, we're going to go all the way down to Tucson so that we can get a shot next to the house of the blah, blah, blah. We don't have to do that anymore. We can just get some photos, and with someone who knows how to construct these kind of 3D environments, build out the environment, come into a set and shoot it right there. It's really interesting stuff.
Wow. Like my head hurts thinking about the possibilities for that, not just in, of course, in filmmaking, but even for us as entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are wanting to, really create something using video that is beyond what we've even thought of.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of options, and that's the really powerful thing about it.
That's dope. So one of the things you talked about that you see people who are using video well, one of the devices that they're using well is storytelling.
Yes.
And this is not anything new. And you and I have joked about how it's become the flavor of the day. Everybody wants to talk about storytelling. Everybody's doing storytelling workshops. Everybody's a story coach and all that. And you've been teaching this stuff for 20 years. Why do you think that it has become this bandwagon topic?
So I was thinking about that, and I think part of it is the shine has come off the apple on the new toys and gadgets. And what I mean by that is, when these new apps roll out, now that the technology is so accessible, there was this big boom over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. Now that everybody's got access to the tools, everybody can create video. And there's a certain democratization of that, which is good. But the problem is a lot of the folks that just started never had the background. They never learned the principles of storytelling. And so now the market is flooded with a lot of noisy videos, and what's rising to the top are the ones that are story-based. And that's what people are starting to latch onto now. They're saying, oh, well, why are these videos working better? Well, it's because they have stories tied to them. Oh, well, this must be new. No, it's not new. It's just those were being drowned out to a certain extent because everybody could create videos.
Yeah. So if somebody is coming to you and saying, okay, Ita, I want to start using video in my business, in my marketing, in my promotions, whatever that is, what are some of those considerations that they need to be taking, not only as they think about how to tell better stories, but just overall?
So there's a couple of things that I can think of. The first thing that comes to mind is I think there's a common misconception when people come to me that they want someone to, handle all of the technical stuff, set up the lights, push the button, do the camera and all that. And that's a big part of what I do. But the other part of what I do is strategy. Yeah. It's developing the story. In the film business, it's something that's referred to as above the line. Now, I've gotten into some trouble throwing that term around because people think, oh, that's very inside baseball. But it's just the easiest way for me to delineate what kind of services or what kind of skill sets are needed. There's definitely a need for being able to run the equipment. But on the other side, the strategic side, the storytelling side, that's a big part of my job. And so I have people that come to me thinking that they have to have all of that figured out on their own. And they just need me to run the equipment. And I see it very often where I can see what they're aiming at.
Yeah.
But they don't have the experience of kind of developing those stories and looking at the whole board, seeing the strategy and what's our distribution channel going to be, and then where are we going to send them. It's basically setting up a marketing funnel.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Something else that I think is very useful for people to understand. Excuse me. I think it was back in, I want to say 2013, a group called ComScore wrote an article. They did research trying to determine whether people were better off using user-generated content or professionally produced content. Mm-hmm. Now, anybody, you guys can look this up, and forgive me if I don't get the numbers exactly right, but it was something to the effect of user-generated content, when used to promote a brand, gave you a 13-point brand lift.
Okay.
Professionally produced content gave you an 18-point brand lift. But when you used them together, you got a 30-point brand lift.
Wow.
So what that tells us is, when the debate of, should I do it myself or should I hire somebody? Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of depends on where you're at in your journey at this point, and you're better using both. The way I always kind of look at it is, if you've got all user-generated and nothing professionally produced, you don't have the budget. Mm-hmm. You're not serious about getting in this game. If you have all professionally produced content, you start losing a little bit of the heart.
Yeah.
Because what they found was the user-generated content did a better job of creating connection. The professionally produced content did a better job of presenting information. Mm-hmm. So the way I like to think of it is, when that user-generated content that you do, you kind of take on an air of, I could have gone into the studio, but I just had to get this out to you guys now. But I've got this body of proof that says, look, I'm legit. I've got all my stuff together. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the two things that I think people should recognize. One, they don't have to try to figure it out all on their own. And there's not one right mix. It's not, I'm going to do all live, or it needs to be all professional, or, you want something that's consistent with your brand and really leaning into your voice and that story.
That's awesome. Now, you're a co-author in our new book, On Purpose, 12 Strategies to Reclaim Your Power and Change Your Life. And the way the book is set up, the first part 1 of the book is about your life. Part 2 of the book is about your business. And so your chapter is featured in the Your Business section. And in that chapter, you literally walk us through, how do you go from this jumbled idea of, here's what I'm trying to communicate, to here's the structure, as you talked about, to developing the stories. And so let's just say somebody goes through that. Okay, I got a good sense of this, but they know, all right, I need to see the bigger picture. I hear what you're saying about that mix. How do you actually work with clients to develop out that piece?
So the way I work with clients is, I usually will start with, first I'll start with a basic video strategy session where we want to develop the overall concept. What's the bigger goal? What are we trying to do? I call it, in the strategy, we develop what I call a game plan. And game plan is an acronym because I'm that guy. So G is for clearly defined goals. We define our goals, then we define our audience. Mm-hmm. Who are we talking to? And it's not everybody. We want to figure out exactly who it's for and what it's for, to borrow from Seth Godin. And then we move on to metrics. How are we going to measure this? We're talking about conversion rates, click-through rates. We want to make sure that what we're designing, we're thinking it through. And then finally, we come up with an execution plan. We basically will write out a blueprint of, okay, this is what this should look like. And one of the reasons I like starting with that is, it might make sense for the client to work with me, and it might not. It might make sense for them to work with somebody else, but now they've got a blueprint that they can use, and they can use that to move forward. If it's with me, awesome. If not, they're more empowered and equipped to get closer to their goals.
Yeah. And that's something people can do. Like, you don't have to be here in Arizona to be able to take people through that process.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, after the past year of 2020, I think we're all more comfortable on Zoom.
Yeah.
Or the different web conferencing apps. So yeah, I can definitely do that. We can do it online. It's usually about an hour, maybe a little bit longer, kind of depending on how much of a flow we get into. But yeah, it's the kind of work I love doing, is helping people get clarity
Yes, yes. I say one of the things I love so much about that is I get frustrated over people just getting caught up in the vanity metrics. Whether they think they're good, whether they think they're bad, it doesn't matter. Like, do these numbers even mean anything when it comes to the goal?
Right.
And that's where you start. And so somebody could have a smaller audience, but if they're very clear on what their goal is, and you can point back and say, well, here was our goal. We did this video series. We achieved the goal. Then they're not caught up, but I only have 300 views. But you achieved your goal. It worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking to those vanity metrics, it's really hard to, especially with regards to video, to understand what counts and what doesn't. So with those vanity metrics, like for example, I think it's, and they may have changed this by the time this airs. They change things so fast, but like on Facebook, for example, a view is 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Somebody watched 3 seconds, that counts as a view. And since most videos are set to autoplay, was whether somebody viewed it or not, is that useful to your business objective? Probably not.
Right.
I don't. That's not a good way to measure it, right? On YouTube, it behaves a little differently. They count watch time, but the thing that's front and center is the thumbs up and thumbs down. Now, again, they may have changed this, but the last time I checked, if somebody likes your video or dislikes your video, it makes no difference. YouTube algorithm says you engaged, that's good, and you get a bump, and the video gets a bump. Doesn't matter if you get thumb up or thumb down. It's like, as long as you interact with it, it's all the same.
That's really interesting because then you think about the whole strategy of people who are just intentionally inflammatory.
Yeah, people throwing fireballs.
Yes. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot here today. We've talked about, why like none of this stuff is really new because it's just new tools. The principles are the same. And that is one of the things, and I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. And one of the things that, if you're out looking for someone to help you further your strategy or develop your strategy, you want to work with people who understand the enduring principles behind the thing, not who are just good at a particular platform or particular tool, because when that thing goes away or that algorithm changes, then you're screwed, basically.
Yep.
So understanding, being able to take that step back and understanding this is why it works. Now let's just figure out how it applies to the next platform.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things because I love sharing this, because as we were talking earlier about this idea of storytelling, how it's the flavor of the month and everybody gets really excited. Well, there are so many different storytelling models out there. The one that I started with and one that I was for screenwriters, and it's called Save the Cat. And the guy that wrote it, he based his work off of the work of Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell based his work off the work of a gentleman by the name of Freytag. And Freytag built his work off the work of Aristotle. So this is all the same. This is not new. I like to say that we don't tell stories according to this model. We created these models to explain the way that we naturally tell stories.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. But here's the good news, folks. You don't have to know who created what or why. You just need to call somebody that does understand it. And I have had the opportunity, Ita, to work with you for years, and I know you get it. Beyond the gimmicks, you know how to really help businesses and even people that are developing personal brands strategically to understand how to use video in a way that really does move you toward those goals. And so, folks, if you're listening, I encourage you to reach out to Ita. So tell folks what those next steps would be and how do they reach you?
Sure. I mean, so you can find me on my website. It's viewfromabove.net. Or they can email me at contact@viewfromabove.net. And the first thing I would love to do is set up a discovery call, just a quick 15 minutes chat to kind of get a sense of who you are, what you're looking to do. You can learn a little bit more about me, and then we can decide if it makes sense to go forward in a business setting or if it's a good time to go grab a coffee, you know? But one of the things I'd also like to share is I've got a resource page that people can access and kind of see a few of the things that I've got out there. I've got an ebook that is for how to use your cell phone to develop your video.
I remember that one, the cell phone cinema.
Yeah,
I
cell phone
love
cinema,
that
yeah.
one. I have that.
Yeah, for people who are afraid to get on camera, I've got the 10-day video challenge, which basically challenges you to make one video every day for 10 days with a few caveats. But if you go to resources.vfanet.link, you can get access to all of that stuff.
Okay, say that one more time, and then we're going to put it in the show notes too.
Sure. It's resources.vfanet.link.
Okay, VFA, like view from above, resources.
View from above, net.
Yep.
.link. Yep.
All right, you got it, and it's in the show notes. But get the resources, and at the end of the day, we're all if you're building a business, running a business, it can be so overwhelming to try to be the expert at all the things. So stop trying to be the expert at all things. Hire the experts. And that's one of the things that I love so much about our conversations on this show is that we get to bring you conversations with the experts so that you know them, so that if this is what you need, then go ahead and do what you need to do. So if video is a part of the gap for you, if it's not working, if you're overwhelmed, if you don't even know where to start, then I encourage you to reach out to Ita, schedule that discovery session, and figure out what's next.
Awesome. Yeah. And, I want to thank you for, having me on the podcast. It's been a blast. I was trying to pick and choose what I was going to talk about just because I know I can go down some rabbit holes and we kind of get that way. So hopefully, the listeners got some good information, and hopefully they are feeling empowered to know that they're not alone. They can do this, and it's never a wrong time to start. Start now.
Start now. And we're going to stop now. So thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you check out the show notes to get the details, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to On Purpose with Aisha Cogborn. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. And I'd love it if you left a review to help other people find the show too. And don't forget, visit onpurposepodcast.com for links to the things we mentioned on the show. We'll see you next time.